Okay, Thomas. Very nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you as well.
Yeah, so I just had some questions that might help people decide whether or not to come to the seminar because, as you know, we won't be beginners, we're not students, and the Neoclassical Pulse Diagnosis is the name of the seminar. So most of us will have learned some form or some system in pulse taking and diagnosis. So can you sort of tell me why I, for instance, might want to come, since I do struggle with pulse taking and diagnosis. So tell me a bit more about why it might benefit.
Of course. So that's one of the reasons I love this system, is because in my experience, both as a practitioner and with teaching students as well as teaching other practitioners, pulse diagnosis tends to be one of the more challenging aspects for people to grasp and really implement. And I see a lot of people that end up not really using the pulse because they've had so many conflicting experiences about, whether it's valid or how to read it, if it's slippery, if it's wiry, and it is very challenging when you're trying to take the pulse based on minute qualitative differences from one position to another, from one depth to another. And that is a very great skill to have. And it also takes a long time to develop. And it also usually entails working closely with a mentor for a number of years to truly grasp it.
Yeah.
One of the beautiful things about neoclassical pulse diagnosis is that it's actually primarily based on the shape of the vessel and whether one position is higher or lower than the others, whether there's distortions radially or ulnarly. And so it's more... it's based on the shape, and so it's easier to pick up relatively quickly because you're not looking for minute qualitative differences or having to figure out, am I at the 3 beans depth or the 5 beans depth?
Right.
And so it's something that can be learned easily in a weekend and implemented right away with also great results. Right. The other thing that's really nice about it is it provides immediate feedback about whether or not you're using the correct points. Because so, for example, within the extraordinary vessel pulse diagnosis system, a DIMI pulse is when the middle position is slightly higher or very high compared to the other two. So if you're coming down evenly with all 3 fingers and you feel the middle position hit your fingers first, that would be a DIMI pulse. Then you would also want to, if you feel that pulse, you would then want to check to see if they have symptoms that correspond, if they have any lower back pain or any menstrual issues, things of that sort. But if you feel that pulse and they have confirming symptoms and you go down and press, even just palpate and apply pressure to gallbladder 41, the pulse should immediately become more even. And so there's instant feedback, so you know whether or not what you're doing is applicable.
Right.
So
yeah.
Across the board, I've found that students to advanced practitioners with 30 years of practice can come in and learn the system and start applying it within the first day. Right. And that's what I also love teaching, is because by the end of the first day, you just see people's eyes lighting up as they're actually feeling the pulse shift when they're doing acupressure on a point.
Great. So when you say shape, are you talking round, jagged, square? What do you mean shape?
No, literally just the shape across the 3 positions. And so again, with the DIMI example, the shape is such that it's going across, and then at the middle position, it rises a little bit higher and then continues a little bit lower across.
Okay.
So it's the actual shape of the vessel across the 3 positions.
Like a graph, you mean?
Exactly. So like, say we were coming from the proximal position is here, and then the middle position ends up being up here, and then the position is lower again.
Okay, I got that.
And so it doesn't require feeling even for, is it round or is it square? It's not qualitative. It's really just the overall geography of the pulse.
Because I bought a book when I first started learning acupuncture, and it's hard to use. And it's this one. It's famous book, but it means I cannot understand it. It's all in Chinese metaphorical stuff. Yeah. So this is hard. I mean, this is like 15 years old, but it's brand new because I've never really read it. So yeah, Bob Flaws translated it. So yeah, so people have learned systems like the Shen hammer, and there's this other guy, was it Jackie Chen or somebody? So if they've learned those systems, would you recommend they then come and learn yours as well? How does that, do you kind of?
Yes, of course. One of the nice things about it is it lends itself to working with other systems very easily. And so I often will combine it with other systems. And even within this system, we won't cover it in this weekend, but there is a place for feeling the quality in each position and harmonizing the quality within each position. But yes, I find it very easy to mix and match with other systems. But what I really appreciate about this system is that it will lead you immediately to a single point that should not only shift the pulse and make it more even across the three positions and more moderate, but it should also immediately change symptoms.
Okay. That sounds good. It sounds like something I could really use.
Yeah, we all can.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I happen to fluke it and it makes sense. The pulse, suddenly I feel, the quality of it according to what I've learned. I can't give you an example right now, and then I ask them, are you sleeping properly? And they're not. So then I know it's the heart, it's deficient. So whatever, something like that. But I think it's a fluke most of the time. I can't repeat it.
Yeah.
So it's not a system.
A lot of people have that experience.
Yeah. Okay. So you've answered that. You talk about compass method is that like the 5 directions, like east, west, north?
Exactly.
Because I learned Feng Shui a while back and a system called 9-key astrology. So it's sort of along those lines, right?
Yes, so the compass method is a very simple method where if you want to harmonize any single organ or pulse position, you simply go to that position on the pulse individually and roll in the 4 directions plus center.
Ah, right. Okay.
And then based on where the greatest distortion is, that is going to lead you to a point on the channel associated with that pulse position to balance the organ as well as the pulse.
Okay. And then one last question, cosmology. There's a little bit, people go a bit woo-woo land around this. I think I love it, but I think some people might not relate to it as well. But it'd be good. You're just doing like an introduction.
Yeah, it's actually just it's a model that I developed that is actually going to be coming out as a book this October, probably about a week or two after our seminar.
I know. I looked on Amazon. I saw it. So it won't be published. You won't be able to. Will you have any copies?
I'm not sure. I haven't heard yet from the publisher.
Yeah, it'd be great if you could bring some like pre-release copies, limited edition copies that you could sign, and it would be amazing.
Yes.
To sell at the conference. Yeah, well, I'm sure.
And hopefully I will be able to. But to go back to your question, the model itself is basically a theoretical model that integrates the extraordinary vessels, the extraordinary organs with the primary channels and Zangfu organs. So I'm not sure about you, but when I was in school and most of the people I know who went through school, we were often taught that there wasn't necessarily a direct connection between the extraordinary vessels and the extraordinary organs, and that there wasn't necessarily a direct connection between those and the primary channels in Zangfu. But I kind of stumbled upon some insights that led to the development of this model where you see that they actually are directly corresponding to each other, and it's all based on the flow of qi through the 12 primary channels on the daily basis, the yin qi cycle, and the order in which the extraordinary vessel confluent or master points are accessed. And it just shows a beautiful unfolding mirrored within the human body of the Taoist conceptions of the evolution of consciousness, of the oneness breaking into the two of heaven and earth, those two coming together in the individual human being, and then connecting with everything else around us in our environment, and eventually folding back into oneness to start the process over again. And so we basically each have this cycle occurring within us on a daily basis when viewed this cycle.
And yes.
Well, and so more than it being about the cosmology is simply the key to unlocking the order, which then allows us to perceive these deep connections between the extraordinary vessels and the extraordinary organs and the primary channels in Zhang Fu. And everyone that I've taught it to just finds that it actually integrates seemingly disparate aspects of the medicine at a deeper level, and also helps us to shift our perspective to see how every individual patient that stands before us is always inherently connected to heaven above and earth below and to the transcendent oneness.
Yeah, I really like that. I really do. It's the way I'd like to practice more. Some patients are more open to it than others, so I wouldn't necessarily talk about it to some patients because it's
right. And I don't necessarily talk about it in that way with all patients, but I think that all patients are looking for a deeper sense of connection within themselves and to something beyond themselves, however they choose to describe it.
Yes.
So I find that, meeting patients where they're at and using the language that works for them, they can still digest the perspective and are still looking for a greater sense of wholeness. I mean, after all, I think that's what we're all searching for ever since we're born in this world, in this separated, dualistic world.
Most of us have, some have more awareness than others, I guess, about that. Yeah. Okay. I think I might end this recording because most people won't tolerate a long time listening to stuff. We're really looking forward to meeting with you.